until I saw that Osmonds toured this place called the Haunted Mansion on TV and one afternoon, and I at that point had been on a horse since days after I was born until I was about 10 years old. And I put horses behind me and I said, I want to build theme park rides. I still to this day remember leaning over the back seat of the car saying, I want to build the Haunted Mansion when I grow up. And just like it was yesterday. So I started experimenting when I early on with theme park rides in the backyard. I wanted to build the Pirates of the Caribbean. So this, actually my parents bought me the record, Haunted Mansion record, and I would play it over and over and over again. This is one of my early attempts at a pirate ride thing. So this was, that's me in the boat, and my friends getting ready to launch me down the ramp into a muddy pit. And that grew to a point to where I nearly broke a child's legs in the boat, and my parents stopped that. So I said, well, what can I do that isn't endangering the lives of the children in the neighborhood? And I said, well, my dad will help you. Dad will help you build a little shack. So I designed, I'm splashing down, so this was my first haunted house. It was about the size of a bathroom, and it had a couple of rooms. That was my drawing of it. My dad helped me build this little shack in the backyard. And this is the floor plan. You know, it has the important dead man, and then there's a guillotine in the skull, I think, something like that. Newspaper came out, saw it, everything went crazy. 400 people showed up and started raining. And later on, one of the malls in San Bernardino called me and said, you did a cool haunted house we saw in the paper, could you do one for the mall? And I said, well, sure I can do anything. So this is in the paper. This is in my garage where I was trying to sculpt masks and creatures and things. And experimenting with animation. So in order to build my first haunted house, with my parents, I told them I needed to do something to work for the mall. So this, I believe I'm 16 in this picture. We bought for $400 a burned out construction trailer that burned, and I replaced it with all the walls and things, and I made a haunted house. My mom actually had to drive me to work every day at the haunted house because I didn't have a license yet. But this was the haunted house. There's the proud owner, and as you can see, I look really good. So that's my haunted house, Garner Holt's Haunted House of Mystery, and it was a big hit at the mall. Look at that cube, isn't that amazing? So it was like that all the time. So I had people going through there. So other malls started to see that and say, well, can you build this one? So sure, I did that. And that was the beginning of Garner Holt Productions. And did a lot of mall stuff for years in the late 70s, early 80s. And then I wanted more than anything, that's the Mall of Orange Haunted House there in the as a pilot. And I wanted more than anything there's some of the artwork of the organist, Ludwig the organist, and him jumping out of his seat. And there's the actual piece itself, and then he'd spin around and fly across the room at you. And that's some of my early animation. Those were my first animated figures I ever built that were pneumatic. And so I really wanted to get into animatronics, which was my dream. So that's myself in the family room with my first Uncle Sam figure that I built, which is the first human figure I built. I was going to school that morning. I was in a sophomore in high school. I didn't have any money to get metal to make the legs and the arms. So those are pieces of my dad's fences that I sawed off with a hacksaw that were in the backyard around the horses. And so I cut up pieces unbeknownst to them and made metal parts. And so I built an Uncle Sam and learned how to do some electronic controls for it. And that was Uncle Sam coming together. And then this was him debuting in a show in the mall in a little stage I built out of plywood. And that was one of the mall shows. He got in National Geographic World Magazine and a couple other magazines, Current Science, and then things started taking off. Well, one thing led to another. I got a tape of it to, there's the second Uncle Sam there, built a year later, and then it was a little more sophisticated. that was a piece of my office in the garage that I put together. Started selling hands. Everybody has them now, but back in those days, nobody had them, and I was one of the first that started selling hands all over, chopped off hands all over the world, and which was kind of fun. Kept the business going. I don't know how my girlfriend taught me to that burn, but that sucks. Anyhow, so I sent my picture of my film of Uncle Sam to Disney. They called, we ended up developing a relationship, and one thing led to another. I started doing things for them, and one of the first things, I started working with Prey Floats. I started working on the stores and displays. And then an idea came up for the Haunted Mansion Holiday, which was surreal to me, because this is the Haunted Mansion I dreamed of as a child. And I wanted to build a Haunted Mansion. And now somebody is coming to me saying, would you like to come in this place and tear it all apart and help us do something really different with it? Really? They decided to choose me to do this show with them. I didn't design the show. Steve Davidson, number brilliant Disney people. And so many of the decorations and things were done by them. I don't want to, I can't take credit for it. Most everything that you'll see here today, if you're familiar with the show, or things that we did, I should say, the company. So this is the load-in card in the Grand Hall, in the load-in area. And this is what it looked like going together in the shop. A bunch of scaffolding, a bunch of figures starting to appear on it. I assume most of you have seen the Haunted Mansion Holiday, I guess. So this is some of the figures in that card. Each one is separate and had its own animation, little gags and things like that. There's the Sally one. They were aluminum flats, they were painted, and they had various animation. This is what one of them looks like. I guess that's Sally there from behind. The animatronic parts of it. And then there's the doctor, and his head says Noel when it opens up. This is looking at it from the back. You can see what's cut out there, and it opens up. And so these are, this was painting black light. So we did this show in Tokyo as well. 3 years later, Tokyo Mansion, they wanted it kind of just like the one in California. So this was in the black light shop painting these. Anybody recognize any other figures in there? I think we have the, way back in the back, I think that's the box of Black Lightning from Buzz Lightyear. There's the famous shattering windows. That's getting ready to paint the frames. There is a hidden Mickey in all of them, if any of you noticed. I'm not going to tell you where it is, but you can watch for it when you're there. This is one of them for the back. This is the glass here, and putting together the stained glass. You see the detail there. Putting together the frames. There's the singing plants. Those are my favorites on their stand. And they're in the conservatory, and then also in the hallway. Really cool. I think this is them getting ready to be painted there. So this is kind of putting them all together. Some of the mechanics, close up of the mechanics that make them swivel and everything. So there they are, and their stands. Those are really fun to make. I really like those. So we have, that's me programming in the mansion, I think, sitting at the table one night, programming stuff. There's the wreath in the hallway, and there's the wreath on the floor in the shop, I guess. There's all the foliage on there, and it's a pretty big wreath. It looks like it's eating someone there. There's a big Christmas tree in the Grand Hall. It has spiders, and they travel up and down on little webs and things. And I'm sure it's no secret to all of you there that in the Grand Hall where the ghosts are, that it's a Pepper's Ghost Effect. There's great big giant panes of glass there, and we were told in certain terms that You know, this tree is assembled, it's big giant metal limbs that are covered with material, and when we were assembling it, they're big and they're heavy and they're steel. And we were within 2 feet of panes of glass that they told us in no uncertain terms to break this glass. And it's about $1 million worth of glass. And so don't do that. And I said, okay. So we stayed really away from the glass. But it was a really neat piece. And that's one of the spiders holding the Christmas bulbs. And there's all the candles that go on the tree. There's the tree getting produced, putting all the material on the steel. And there's the scroll. You see Garner Holt on there. You know, it's really funny, but the person who made that, see, at the time, Garner Holt Productions wasn't very well known, but they knew there was Garner Holt worked on the Haunted Mansion. So I'm the only one that happened my name on there twice. Everybody had their first name, and the person who printed this said they thought there was a Garner and there was a Holt. So I said, I have a Garner's name and I have a Holt's name too. So that was cool. I had both my names on there. So then there's Pumpkin Mountain. This was in our backyard of the shop, putting the pumpkins onto the big Pumpkin Mountain. And as you can see, it's pretty good size. We made it in a couple pieces so we could haul it in there. These pictures, another surreal thing about this is these photos were taken about a week before, or about 2 weeks before 9/11 happened. And every time I see these photos, I'm like, you know, it brings me back to that time. You know, it's very strange. But because we loaded it in you know, the end of September in 2001. So there it is, back inside the shop where it's getting final paint and everything's getting touched up, ready to go. There's Jack, apparently without his dentures. We have Zero there off to the side of him. And that's some of the skeleton mechanics, you know, inside the head, I believe. There's Oogie Boogie with his spinning wheel and bag of bugs. And he's pretty animated. He was a lot of fun to do. Pulls the lever, and then you get a prize as you go by the mirrors, which, oh, there's the sculpt. That was in the sculpt room of Oogie, the original sculpt. It was kind of neat. And there's the big bag of bugs himself. That's building the spinning wheel. It's a kind of a nice piece. And then here's the overlays. They went over the existing mirrors that are in the unload area to where you can see the different prizes that you win of Oogie's spinning wheel. And I think that's some of the prizes there that we developed for inside the. It's kind of a neat shot, just getting them all ready to go ship down the park. And then, you know, there's one of the gifts, the spooky gifts, which was a Christmas sock. And so there's about, I don't know how many years later, I don't know if it's probably more than 10 years later, we were asked to put in Sally across from Jack. That had always been intended, but it just got delayed, and so that's her. We did the gravestone, and we did Sally there. She blinks her eyes, and her leg flips up at the back. She kind of pines for Jack. She's staring at Jack, wishing that she was with him. And so there's the Tokyo house, and a lot of the stuff on the outside there were things that we did, and I think that's the end of the slideshow. So I'm not checking anything here other than my time. I'm not looking at, so I got 3:38, so I'm supposed to go to 4 o'clock. So I got about 20 minutes here, so I'm going to talk just a little bit more about Mansion. It was, as I say, very surreal, very amazing thing to have been involved in. In those days, we just kind of, the whole team went in there, spent a month in there, you know, in the attic, the real attic, in the bowels, the basements, everything. We got to see everything, do everything, anywhere we wanted, just all night, overnight. You know, it's just amazing, you know. Still, can't tell you how strange that was as a child, dreaming of that place and then getting to have the run of it in a sense, you know. But they were a pleasure to work with. Disney's a great company, and we were proud and pleased to be able to do these things for them. Great team, great creative team. They developed all this stuff. They did all the artwork, and then for it, we just basically built what they tell us to build. That's a lot of things that we do. People say to us all the time, you know, you come up with all this stuff, and you know, in some cases we do. We have a creative department. People come to us and say, you know, we want a dark ride. Okay, what do you want? Well, we want a themed dark ride like Pirates. Okay, after that, what do you want? We don't know. You tell us. So that's cool. That's fun. Go do that. Cookie cutter stuff is fun too. You know, I mean, it's nice to have a continuous source of income like Chuck E. Cheese. Built 32 Chuck E. Cheeses every 3 months or 4 months for 20 years. You know, that, you know, I have Chucky standing in my shop. When people come in, I say, pay homage to this figure. He bought this building. So Chucky has an honorary spot in my shop. You know, it's fun to have things that are cookie cutter. And then it's also nice to have companies come to you and throw down a stack of blueprints this thick and say, everything is here. You do exactly what we want you to do here, down to the color, the nuts and bolts, you know. And we say, okay, this is how much it'll cost, and we'll just go do it. And so it is, the diversity of that is really great. I've had a lot of, I get that a lot of private customers. I have some customers out in Malibu and LA. There's one fellow that has about $12 or $13 million worth of animation in his basement. He just likes animatronics and just keeps buying toys from us, you know. And a lot of times, House of Malibu, one of them, they didn't know what they wanted. They said, "Let's just, I want stuff that scares people in my house." And I said, "Well, what do you want?" He says, "I don't know." I said, "What's your budget?" He says, "I don't care." And I said, "Well," you know, so I started thinking, what would I want in my house? You know, if I had a house and an unlimited budget. So I said, "Well, you need a wolf that attacks people at the front door. They ring the doorbell, the wall rattles and bulges, flies open, and the wolf flies out and attacks people. The chains pull him back, and he's drilling snot, he's spitting on you." And he said, "Okay, I'll take it." I said, "Well, you need a creature that jumps out of the planter, uproots a palm tree, and then flies up and spits on people right by the pool and knocks everybody into the pool." I said, "Okay, I'll take that." And we have an alien, and then, you know, so it goes on and on and on. And we, years ago, we did Michael Jackson's house, a place in San Ynez, they called it Neverland. And he wanted you know, Indians, pirates, birds, monsters. So we did, we do a lot of things for private individuals, Big Bend Eye, people like that. We have a lot of retail, I don't do haunted houses anymore. I don't really, we kind of veered away from anything that had to do with liability with people, and touches people, and we stopped scaring people into the point where they fall into a pool and things like that. I stood there watching the gentleman do this to people, and I thought, we're going to get sued and lose our lives. But it's a lot of fun. And in any case, we do things for the military. So you saw some things in there at Camp Pendleton that the soldiers get trained, and they run through, and they run into terrorists, and the terrorists can pull knives on them, and the terrorists can get shot, and they fall down on their backs, and they die, and they pop back up and come alive again, and they throw grenades at you, and they can shoot at you, and you can shoot at them. And, you know, it's crazy, but it trains soldiers, which is important. You know, you send these kids overseas, and they don't know what they're going to need help with the training. So a lot of weird things like that. But all in all, it's great to do things that entertain educate, inform, make people happy. But it is a dream come true. I've lived a dream come true. Never spent a single day in college. I tested out of high school when I was in my junior year. Never even went to my senior year. So anybody out there that thinks that they have to spend half their life in college to get anywhere, I would say, love what you do, passion, work on it day and night, live the dream, never give up, keep going. I ran into obstacles that, people would just stop. Quick story, and then I'll take questions. So, first figure I built, Uncle Sam. I needed eyes. I tried it over and over and over to make new eyes, painting wood balls. Couldn't work. Didn't work. Got worse and worse and worse. I thought, okay, I'll just find the people that make eyes for people. So I looked at the phone book, ocularist, Don Quiggy, San Bernardino ocularist. Called him up. I said, I need some eyes for my figure. How much are they? And he says, we talked a bit. He said, they're about $1,500 a piece. It's about $3,000 for a pair. And I'm like, well, that's 10 times the budget of my entire project. I cannot do that. He says, well, I'll tell you what. He says, I won't sell them to you, but come on down here on weekends and talk to me. And he says, maybe I can teach you to make it. So I went down there. I spent a whole year riding my bike to his shop while I was building things. And I learned how to make ocular quality eyes. In fact, I used to wear a little coat and I would help him fit patients with them. And so that was an obstacle. I didn't solve it overnight. It took a year or more to solve it, but I'm better for it now. It gets you to the final goal, whatever it takes, no matter how long it takes to get over that obstacle. So that's kind of been the story of my life. It's just persevering through pitfalls, of which I've had 1,000 of them. I'm doing a book. We're gonna have a book soon. Maybe you'll all hopefully be able to read some of the great stories that I've been through. But I'm no smarter than anybody else. I'm no more money than anybody else. I just love what I do and want to keep doing it as long as good Lord lets me do it. So I will gladly take questions. I think I've got about 15 minutes here for questions until 3:45. I'm in good shape. So how do we want to do this? Do you want to just is somebody going to hold the mic to the people? Oh, there you go.